The Miami Heat have just eliminated Giannis Antetokounmpo and the first-seeded Milwaukee Bucks in 5 games, making this the first ever play-in team to actually win a series. Yes, it's possible. Now, how did the Miami Heat do it? Well, that's in large thanks to one man, and one man only, really. Jimmy freaking Butler. Talk about a whole new guy when it comes to the playoffs. Playoff Jimmy is unstoppable. Hell, Bubble Jimmy is unstoppable. Just ask Rachel Nichols. Anyway, now why did Jimmy Butler have to work so hard for the Miami Heat, especially on the offensive side of the game? Well, it's because they lost their third biggest scorer of the season in Tyler Hero in Game 1 when he broke his hand halfway through the first game. Now, he isn't the only big player to get hurt this series, and we'll get to that later. But for right now, we're talking about Jimmy Butler here, alright? And what makes him special? Because this guy is different. So to kick things off, let's take a look at Jimmy Butler's performance in Game 1 of the series, where I think the series was really defined. Now, he came out of the gates on fire. This is before any injuries have happened to either team. Jimmy Butler was able to score 14 points in the first quarter alone in Game 1. And he followed that up with a pretty solid second quarter, I'd say, where he again would score double digits and get 10 points, leading to Jimmy Butler having 24 points at halftime with 4 assists, 3 steals, and 2 total rebounds. Now, this guy was an absolute monster in the first half, and he'd go on to finish the game pretty solid, ending up with 35 points, 11 assists, and 5 rebounds. Basically, he got a double-double in Game 1, and the Miami Heat ended up winning Game 1 by 13 points when they went ahead and beat the Bucks 130-117 in a game that a lot of people didn't see coming. Now, how were the Miami Heat able to win Game 1? This is where we get into the injuries that I was mentioning earlier. You see, Giannis Antetokounmpo did get hurt in this series. In fact, he got hurt, I'm pretty sure, 9 minutes into Game 1. If I'm not mistaken, it was a back injury, maybe? Like, he fell on the ground and he hurt his back. Anyway, he would end up getting hurt 9 minutes into Game 1, and that would take him out until Game 4 of the series. Now, Game 2 and 3, Jimmy Butler had solid performances. Not his best, but they were pretty good. You see, in Game 2, Jimmy Butler would do what he does best, and that's come out smoking. Jimmy would go on to score 13 of the team's 28 points. Yes, he scored half the team's points in the first quarter, and it was pretty good. Up until the second quarter, where things for the Miami Heat went absolutely wrong. I'm talking offensively and defensively. Now, why was that? Maybe it's because Jimmy Butler sat out a bit, but honestly, this is the quarter that they lost the game in. You see, Milwaukee was able to score 46 points in the second quarter alone. Jimmy Butler only had 3. And, of course, he would, come out at halftime with a little more pep in his step. He got 10 points in the third. And at that point, the game was basically over. Yes, they blew the Heat out. Now, the score is not really going to represent that because it was... Fourth quarter was entirely garbage time. Jimmy Butler did not step foot in the fourth quarter. Complete garbage time. Miami ended up getting 17 points back, and yet the Heat still lost the game by 16, which shows you how much of a blowout this was. And the most impressive part about this whole game is the fact that the Milwaukee Bucks were able to win by what should have been more than 16 points without Giannis Antetokounmpo, showing NBA fans that maybe Giannis being hurt doesn't make it impossible for this team to win, especially since they're playing an 8th seed. And Jimmy Butler heard those critics and did his thing in Game 3. Yes, Giannis was still not back by then, but that didn't stop Jimmy, alright? And in Game 3, can you guess how well Jimmy Butler played in the first quarter? Yeah, again, it was his best quarter, with him going 6 for 8 from the field and getting 17 of his eventual 30 points in the first quarter alone. You see, Miami would go on to jump out to a 9-point lead, 20-29, and wouldn't let up for the rest of the game. Now, Jimmy Butler, he got a couple. I'm pretty sure he got 9 in the third quarter, and after that, it was done. He did not play in the fourth quarter again, but this time it was different. The Miami Heat actually blew out the Bucks in this game, 121-99, to take a 2-1 series lead. So, first, we got a pretty competitive first game, where a couple stars go down and the Heat prevail. And then we got 2 blowouts from 2 separate teams. leading to Game 4 and the return of Giannis Antetokounmpo, making this a series again. Now, of course, it hurt the Bucks that the fact that he missed 2.5 games, but they managed to take one, so people would think that the Bucks will take care of business now that they've got their main players. That's not what happened, because in Game 4, Butler had the best game he's had in a couple of years at this point. I'm pretty sure since that bubble run. Butler had a phenomenal game. Can you guess how many points he dropped? Yeah, you couldn't. You couldn't even if you tried. The only way you can guess is if you watch the game. And if you watch the game, then you would know that Jimmy Butler went ahead and got 56 points in Game 4. You know how important those 56 points were? Massive, because the Heat only won the game by 5. Now, Giannis was back, which was great for the Bucks. Giannis, you would love to see him back. 26 points, 13 assists, 10 rebounds. That's pretty valuable for the Bucks. But it didn't matter because they were playing playoff Jimmy. And what happens when you play playoff Jimmy? You get screwed. Yes, this playoff Jimmy had 9 rebounds, only 2 assists. But who needs assists when you're scoring 56 points in the game? Now, how did those points come? Well, 22 of them came in the first, which is notoriously Jimmy's best quarter, especially in this series versus the Bucks. He plays the best in the first. And by the best, I mean his scoring is the highest in the first. What does that say about the team? I don't know. Maybe the Bucks are just slow rollers. Anyway, Butler would only go on to score 2 in the second. It doesn't really matter. That's not the point. 11 in the third quarter, and in the fourth quarter, he turned it up a notch because the Miami Heat were kind of, falling behind. He turned it up in the fourth quarter, got 21 points. So he had 2 20-point quarters. First time ever, I'm sure. Not ever. First time in a long time that's happened. Yes, Jimmy Butler got 22 in the first, 21 in the fourth. What was he doing in those middle quarters? No one really knows. Doesn't matter because he ended the game with 56 points. A franchise record for the Heat in a playoff game. And you know who's worn a Heat jersey? Yeah, D-Wade, Bosh, and old-ass Shaq, Alonzo Mourning, and am I forgetting? LeBron James have worn a Miami Heat jersey, and yet Jimmy Butler has scored the most in franchise history with 56 in this game. Is that huge? Yeah, massive. Now, Game 5 just took place, and if I'm keeping it a buck, it was probably my favorite game of the series just because of how it went down. You see, I'm coming home from practice, and before I hit the road, I look at the phone, and the Heat are getting blown out in the third quarter. So when I turn on my TV and see that the Heat are down by 16 heading into the fourth, I thought the game was over. Until I remember that the Heat have a guy called Jimmy Butler. And he turned up in the fourth quarter, dropping 14 points alone in that, to add to his total of 42, which he would eventually get. And he rallied this team to another comeback. I'm pretty sure this was back-to-back comeback for the Heat. And how did this game go into overtime? Well, it's probably because of a last-second shot that Jimmy Butler makes on this alley-oop layup. Yes, he made that. He is clutch, kind of like Trae Young the other night. We'll talk about the Hawks eventually, don't worry. But that layup would lead to an OT where the Miami Heat and Bucks kept battling. Giannis did not want to be eliminated. He did not want people to forget that he won the ring only 2 years ago. Alright, plus it would be a bad look if the Bucks got eliminated in the first round, let alone in 5 games. Too bad that, Jimmy Butler, you be playing against Jimmy Butler. Too bad for Giannis. Tough luck. Anyway, in OT, there was about a total of 14 points scored. And luckily for the Heat, they scored 8 of those, outscoring the Bucks 8-6, winning in overtime. Yes, the Miami Heat are going to play the New York Knicks in the second round. Is that a wild second round matchup? Yeah, it kind of is. One of those teams is going to the conference finals. Just remind yourselves that they're going to the conference finals to either play the Sixers or the winners of the Hawks and the Celtics. So Yes, the East is getting just as spicy as the West, thanks to Jimmy Butler and the boys. Now, who are the boys? Well, you got Kyle Lowry, you got Bam Adebayo, you got Caleb Martin, but who cares? Because we've got Jimmy Butler. He is the focal point. He is the superstar. Now, this Miami Heat team is going to need to step up if they want to keep this special stretch going. They are playing the Knicks, who, honestly, I see them as a stronger team, and they are because they're the 5th seed. But this is a deeper team. This has more talent. New York Knicks in a Western Conference game is crazy. The only thing the Heat have going for them is Jimmy Butler, and that might just be all they need. All right. That's about it for the video. Didn't want to make this one too long. Hopefully it's not. I'm pretty sure it's around 7-8 minutes. Just wanted to cover that crazy ass series. Yes, I'm actually, you know what, my next video is actually about the Knicks, so just tune in if you're a Knicks fan, if you're from the Bronx. All right, catch y'all later. Much love. Deuces.